Here are the rocks that's going to be cut from our recent Willamette River rock counting trip. You saw me pick this one here up, as well as this one here. And I believe that's just quartz with matrix, but it's got my attention, so who knows. In addition, a chunk of jasper and another chunk of jasper. So we're going to go ahead and cut these and show you what they're like on the inside, especially with these two here. Okay, what I'm doing now is I've got the rocks secured in here. Use a lot of bracing blocks to get this in here as solidly as it can, and it does not move. That's the key. For those who are not familiar with these types of slab saws, you truly have to have these rocks locked down tight, and there's many ways of doing that. Now, this saw is an 18-inch Highland Park Model J2. It's the second generation of this type of saw, and what makes this different from the first generation are these rails down here. These rails here are square tubing. They used to be round. They've also redesigned the bottom of this carriage. So it's got these roller bearings on all four corners. It has a total of 8 of these bearings. This is very similar to the current design of saws that Highland Park is now selling that's made overseas. This one here was made after the original Highland Park was bought out by Musto Industries. And the difference is when you can see this rectangle label on these machines rather than the round label. So what I'm doing now is I'm setting the depth to where there's an automatic shutoff down here, but you see the chain, it's hooked to a hook. And what I want to do is determine where this is going to shut off at. And when the carriage, which is automatically driven, which you can barely see this screw shaft, when that's automatically going, let me slide it forward so you can see that better. There you go, there's the shaft right there. That goes into this piece down here, which in turn, this pulls up and locks it. So when now this shaft is turning, the carriage will move. So now we're going to set the shutoff position on this. That's in a little far. Let's look at this one here. That'll be good because, yep, that'll be good. What may happen is I'm doing a first cut, and then I'm going to do a second cut. And on the second cut, it may not cut all the way through. It might be sitting there hanging. That's okay in my books. That way there I can just reach up there and break it off. It doesn't fall into the tray and break. Some trays have metal, not metal, rubber pads for the rocks to fall onto. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over to a guesstimated position. And I like that because the saw, if I put it over here and it goes to start, that saw blade flexes and moves. So I don't like doing that. I like having it so it hits square onto the stone I'm cutting. Pull it back. I set that. I drop the lid, turn it on. There is no windows in this one, so it's operated by purely sound. When it's done, it'll shut off, and then we'll move this over and cut again. Okay, the end cut's done. Now, I'm not too sure what we're going to get out of this. That's what it looks like. It's, I don't know, kind of interesting. It might be okay to do something with. Well, let's cut a slab off of it. So I'm going to move this over approximately 7 millimeters. I've operated this enough to know that 8 turn cranks is 7.2 millimeters. So now, go ahead and get this started, and we'll get a slab off of it. Oh, by the way, anybody who's worried about this guard not being on here, I don't allow kids or other people in this shop when I'm running it. So if you don't like that the safety shield is not on there, bite me. Okay, it shut off, and it did just as I predicted. It did not come all the way to the end. So now what I'm going to do is just grab all the rock. It comes right off. So that's what that looks on the inside. Not too bad. Let me see, cracks, there's a crack over here. But in this area here is pretty good. And also this small area right here, there's no cracks. In the back side, that's fine because that can get worked down. So that could get made into something pretty cool. So now that you've seen this, basically the procedure for the other 3 rocks are going to be the same. Since this one's already mounted and I've got room for one more slab on this one here, I'm going to go ahead and take it off. Nope, that's going to be a thin one. Do I want to do a thin one or not? Yeah, I will. This is only going to be about 5.5 millimeters thick, this next one. Maybe 5 or 4.5. And that's okay. There might be a use for a thin cabochon down the road. When I bring you guys back, we're going to have everything be cut, and we'll talk about them. The cutting project is done. Everything is cut pretty well. We got 1 end cut and 2 slabs off of each piece. This one here I could have gotten a lot more off of, and same with this one here, but I just wanted to be uniform. These other things here, we'll talk about them later. So, do you remember what those looked like? The ghost was in here and just shut my door. Problem is, this is typical Willamette River material. You can see the cracks. And we're going to try something with these here in a minute. Now this one here, and we'll show you the end of this one. This is the one with the quartz in the matrix. Now, let me wet it down. Stuff is definitely unique. Almost like lace material right here. That's quartz, that's quartz. So this will end up getting put on a board, glued on a board, and continue to be cut. Now the 2 pieces of jasper that the missus found. First, without it being wet, and then now with it wet. And there's a little bit of oil still left on it, so. this particular piece fell out of my hand and dropped, and it chipped. That's how it goes sometimes. These also have cracks in them. There you go, you can see it there in the reflection. And then here's another one. Different, I mean, it's still jasper, but a different pattern. And it also has a crack in it. So, what do you think? Granted, all this stuff came out of the Willamette River. You see me pick these two up. The missus picked these here up. And I think it's some pretty cool stuff. Now let's talk about this other stuff here. This is some Southeast Oregon material. I've been cutting on it. And it is translucent too. Now this one here was my normal thickness. I cut my slabs usually between 7 and 8 millimeters thick. But still the light comes through. And then there's these here, which even more translucent, and this has got some of the plume on it. It's not the best example of plume agate, but it still gets the point across quite well. And this here's some oolite. Not too fond of this stuff. I've broken several pieces of it by hand. See? Not too fond of that stuff. But for this other stuff that we got, what we picked up, I'm real happy with it. Some of this will make some pretty good cabochons, especially the jasper. This stuff here with the cracks in it and the way it is, not exactly sure. Not exactly sure what we're going to do with it. It's got some interesting characteristics to it. It's got a little bit of a druzy pockets, small ones. I don't know if you can pick up the, yeah, this camera's not picking it up. So, but in here, right in that area there, there's a little bit of sparkle in it. So yeah, there we go. Told you I'd cut some of these rocks that we found, and here we go. Now you know what they look like on the inside, and I am impressed with this one here the most over anything. Despite the cracks that's in it. That stuff is incredible. So there you go. Bring this video to an end. Just remember, everyone's life is an adventure. Then there's mine out here in my shop, cutting rocks that I found in the Willamette River. This is the Adventures of Jaws Jr. Have a good one, everybody. See ya!